Today is Tuesday, March 26th. It is 9 o'clock. I've asked Pastor Jarvis Wright with St. Paul Church to come up and lead our invocation, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Bill Pickens, Commissioner Pickens. All rise if you're able to do so.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this day that you have made. We thank you for the opportunity to serve our community. We thank you for life, health, and strength. And we ask, God, that you would continue to strengthen us as we serve. We pray, God, for our commission. We pray for our city, our county. And we just ask, God, that you would continue to visit us. We even thank you, God, for this Holy Week as we commemorate what you did, giving your son Jesus. And we bless and we magnify your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Wright, and thank you for coming in at the last moment. We appreciate that very much. Thank you, Commissioner Pickens. Our first order of business is the approval of the minutes stated in your packet.
Move approval. Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. We're going to recess the Board of County Commission meeting, call to order our Port Authority meeting, and the first item of business is the award of Putnam County Port Development Plan contract.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, we have proper motion to move approval. Proper second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. The next item on Port Authority, this is only Port Authority business. If you have a public comment on our Port Authority items, and see no one running to this podium, we'll close the public comment period of our Port Authority. Commissioners, is there any general discussion on Port Authority items? Hearing none, then we'll close our Port Authority and bring back to order our Board of County Commission meeting. And the next thing is our presentation. Mr. Clerk, Matt Reynolds, or the Clerk of the Court, you have an employee recognition.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to recognize one of my staff. So, as you ladies and gentlemen know, I try to honor Employee of the Quarter every quarter, and so this quarter's recipient is Mrs. Emily Greiner. If she will come on up.
All right.
And I'd like to just take a quick moment to say that Emily has been absolutely amazing. She, when she first came on board, she really stepped up. She took some handwritten notes, standard operating procedures, and just took them and ran with them. Even as recent as yesterday, we had a pretty long jury selection procedure yesterday that went into the afternoon after 5, and Emily was still right there helping us out. So I just want to thank her for being a stellar employee. So thank you.
You want to come get your picture? Emily, if I stand on the other side of you, then you'll be standing between two cars. Y'all coming down?
Not for clerk.
You don't want to come in? Okay, do that one. Well, why don't we send her?
Laura.
You want to be in there too? I can take the picture.
No.
Congratulations. Emily, congratulations. Our next presentation will be Julianne. You have a PowerPoint you want to share on the recent situation with our animals.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Most of you have heard that we had an animal situation over the last few weeks in Putnam County. There's been a lot of questions, and we wanted to take a minute to just share the real information instead of a lot of assumptions that were made. So before you today, we're going to do just a little recap of what happened. Wednesday morning, we had a joint meeting between the Putnam County Animal Services Administration and the Putnam County Sheriff's Office to determine the best course of action and plan of attack. Wednesday, we went and met with a homeowner, and they agreed to surrender the dogs, and staff began collecting the dogs Wednesday midday, about noon. Better?
Yes.
Thursday, staff returned to collect additional dogs and began working with rescues to establish placement of the dogs being collected. Friday, an adoption event was held where a few of the dogs from the case, which were ready for placement, were available, along with every adoptable dog that was in our shelter possession that had been waiting, some of them for weeks or even months. Everything was done in compliance with state law and county ordinance. From the time of the first capture of the dog until the placement of the dogs with rescues and or those shelter dog adoptions was 48 hours. The first dog that began the story is Vinny. Vinny was probably seen or can be recognized by the press conference that was held on Thursday when we began releasing information to the public. The Suggs family adopted Vinny. Mr. Suggs and his wife Julie were here, and seeing how small Vinny was, they agreed to personally pay for an emergency vet appointment at their family veterinarian and all related care for Vinny. It was at Vinny's vet appointment that their veterinarian learned what was happening in Putnam County and reached out to us for assistance. Some of our heroes throughout these 48 hours definitely includes Dr. Vudovic. She's a local veterinarian, the one that met Vinny, and her day she volunteered free of charge along with her medical staff and brought the masses of the medications used on each animal that was available at the adoption. She did an examination and counseled each adoptee about general health of that animal. Things like age and things that may need follow-up care were discussed. All dogs were administered medication for internal parasites, worms. She dosed them based on weight and need. Bordetella, a 1 or 3 years rabies vaccine, dependent on which was appropriate, and a DHP, which is a combination vaccine that covers viral diseases like distemper, hepatitis, and parvo. Another one of our heroes is Jennifer Baker, the CEO of First Coast No More Homeless Pets. When we announced the adoption, she reached out and agreed to open her surgery center on a Sunday for any animal adopted who might need a spay or neuter. Putnam County staff transported these animals, leaving at 6 a.m. Sunday morning, to the surgery center for all of them who desired to be spayed or neutered free of cost to anyone who adopted with us on that day. Some of our other heroes at the adoption event, Clay County, Flagler County, Marion County, and Volusia County Animal Services all jumped in after they had heard what was happening in Putnam County. They sent us resources. They transported dogs. They showed up at the scene with our staff that was there and helped capture. They worked at the shelter. They worked at the adoption event. They helped logistically set things up. We could not have done it without our surrounding counties' partnerships. Pretty Paws Dog Grooming immediately heard, and they came to the shelter and began grooming any of those dogs who needed those hygiene care. They also donated their time for several days at the shelter doing this in a makeshift grooming station. We had numerous Putnam County teams, both at the adoption event and throughout the 48 hours. Employees volunteered their lunch hours. They volunteered different breaks during their day to come out and work the adoption event and help with logistical needs. The Putnam County Sheriff's Office was an invaluable resource. From our first meeting on Wednesday throughout the end of the event, Colonel Wells was the first to say, what resources do you have that aren't met and how can we do it? They supplied inmates to help with shelter, cleaning, the masses of animals that were coming in. Deputy Werner went on site with us. She helped capture animals. They were there. Their law enforcement officers were everywhere at the adoption event, helping to steer people and guide people in the direction that they were supposed to be. Our animal services staff have worked basically 7 days a week and nearly around the clock since this first started, during the event and after the event, including Sunday when they left here at 6 a.m. with a truckload of animals to be spayed and neutered and then returned them to those owners that Sunday afternoon. Emergency management jumped in the minute they heard. Stefan and Danny were on the phone with state resources and getting us the necessary items that we needed, along with fire rescue, who also volunteered their time at the adoption event to be there and help. The adoption event brought in numerous donations which helped us replenish shelter supplies, but also provide for the shelter animals that remain there. A little bit about the animals that were adopted. On that day, we had 45 animals adopted. 2 were returned. 1, because after the weekend, the family realized that a family member was allergic to the dog. And 2, because the dog chased the family cat. Those were returned to us, and we're happy to take them back in. They were placed with rescues, and that's going to be a great thing. Juniper was adopted by the Martez family. Juniper was a shelter dog who had been with Animal Services for 50 days. Juniper was spayed through our ongoing partnership with UF Veterinarian School. The Cox family adopted Mona. They told us Mona is very happy and she is loved. She's constantly sitting in my lap. She's spoiled. She's amazing me by doing something different every day. She waves hello to my other dogs and she is happy here. The Moody family adopted Poppy. They report that she's fitting right in and she is the sweetest thing. Their family veterinarian has taken over follow-up care. The Johnson family adopted Bach. They chose to work with Fix 'em All for sterilization services, but the pup has been a great addition to their family. There's Bach. Sorry, I'm ahead of you. Maddie was adopted by the Wilkins family. The family tells us she is so sweet and getting better every day. Maddie has seen their family vet and is being treated for any follow-up needs. The Moore family adopted Callie. Callie had been in the shelter for 67 days before finding her forever family. Callie had been abandoned and picked up by Animal Services, but is now happy. The Caraco family adopted this pup, who they have now named Bandit, and Bandit is doing great adjusting to their family. The Rogers family adopted Badu. You may have seen Badu because Badu is Facebook famous. He escaped his enclosure on the first day and was out for about 5 hours before they got him back. The family says he is doing fine. He is well trained. He only poops and pees on the pads and outside. And last night he had his first walk in the park. Everyone loves the addition to our family. Thank you so much. He is helping with our stress. The Butler family adopted this senior fella. They named him Bear and report he's doing great. The Jennings family adopted Belle. They told us she is amazing and a perfect fit for our house. Belle came to the shelter malnourished, very skinny, but oh so sweet. Belle stayed with us for 297 days before finding her forever home with the Jennings family. The Maxine family adopted Miss Missy. She's seen here freshly groomed and has appointment for all of her follow-up care in Clay County where she resides. The Sutton family adopted Luna. Prior to finding the Sutton family, Luna had been a shelter dog. She was adopted once prior, but due to our landlord policy, was returned once again to the shelter and abandoned. Luna is a sweet girl who has been waiting 149 days for someone to take her home. The Cox family adopted Ginger. Ginger is doing well and has established care with the family veterinarian. The Ritchie family adopted Darla. Darla was a shelter dog. She had been waiting to be adopted in our shelter for 290 days. Her family tells us she is good and she does not like to get in her cage. She really likes to lay on the couch. But she gets along well with the other dogs and my toddler. Sadie was adopted by the Esbin family, and they are so happy with their new addition. The family veterinarian has taken up follow-up care. The Mullins family adopted Loki. They told us that he is a very good. He is getting used to his environment. They love the dog. He is low-key. His name fits him well. Loki also was a shelter dog who had been with us for 27 days. In the shelter, he was very sweet, but it was not a great environment for him. He was very scared and timid, and we are so happy to see him thriving in his home. The Esbin family of St. Augustine adopted this pup, where they have also established follow-up care with their family veterinarian. The Farabee family adopted Poppy. They tell us we've named her Poppy and she's doing very well. We have 2 cats that decided early on that they like her, which is a blessing. She's had a bath in the kitchen sink and her ears cleaned and nails trimmed. She's sleeping on my lap right now. Thank you for letting us have this lovely little girl. She is loved. We are very happy to welcome her. We recently lost our Olivia, and after having her for nearly 15 years, she had been a rescue as well. Poppy had been helping us heal with her antics and cute floppy ears. Bless you for the good work that you do. The Swain family adopted Rusty. They tell us Rusty is doing okay, getting adjusted. But the Swain family is well-versed in rescue dogs, and they have everything they need to care and love on Rusty. The Goodman family adopted Izzy. They tell us she hates being alone. She loathes it. She is already partially house-trained. She loves car rides and bath. Apparently, she loves my children, too. My youngest, who's about 3, was crying on the floor, throwing a fit, and she came and laid on his chest to calm him down. Don't cry. The Weinkoff family adopted Maddie. Maddie is adjusting and being loved on by the entire family. The Jackson family adopted Thor. They tell us Thor has been really awesome. He's good with kids. He listens when I call him. He goes out the door when he needs to. It's been an awesome journey. Thor was also a shelter dog. Prior to Thor finding a Jackson family, he was with the shelter for 41 days. The Richards family adopted this sweet girl. They've named her Porter, and she's fresh from the groomer here. The Fowler family adopted Debbie. Debbie goes for rides in the truck and lays in the living room floor. The family told her we got her new collars, new name tags, and some treats. She gets along with the dogs and the outside cats. She whines at the door to go out, and we couldn't ask for a better dog. She's a big love bug. Debbie was also a shelter dog who had been with us for 121 days before finding her home with the Fowlers. The Figaro family adopted this precious pup and has established care with with their family veterinarian. The Cornwell family adopted this silly guy. They say he's doing great. Grantley was also a shelter dog, and prior to finding a home with the Cornwell family, he spent 260 days in our shelter. The Castro family adopted Marla, and they just love her. The Davidson family adopted Bianca. Bianca was also a shelter dog who had been with us for 68 days. She's working through a few behavioral concerns as she adjusts to life outside the shelter. But as staff has done with each of the adoptees, we have checked in routinely with them, and we are working with the family to provide them any resources that might help the family and Bianca adjust. That includes specialty training harnesses or leashes. We have set them up with a dog trainer free of charge who will come and continue to work with Bianca. The Middleton family adopted Ozzy. The family tells us he's our baby boy and living the good life now. Pup cup ice cream treats and a ton of toys and clothes for Ozzy. The White family adopted Mushu. Mushu was also a shelter dog that had been with us for 35 days. The family says she's great, sleeping on the couch, and spoiled rotten. The mom also told me it's now like having 2 teenagers in the house. The Guzman family adopted this sweet girl. They named her Delilah, and she's fresh from her bath. The Bell family adopted Biggie. They told us she's doing so good. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is actually our first dog. Biggie was a shelter dog who had been waiting for her forever home for 252 days before finding the Bell family. The Augustus family adopted 2 shelter dogs, Loco and Arrow, seen here. Both Loco and Arrow are shelter dogs that came from very unfortunate circumstances to the shelter in March. But the Augustus family reports that they are doing wonderful and are well loved. That's our adoption stories, and they are wonderful. And we have continued to follow up with them with all necessary resources that might aid any of the adoptees, whether it be a shelter dog or otherwise, that they may need. From there, all the rest of the animals were placed in rescues, numerous rescues. We had rescues all over the state of Florida and all over the state of Georgia who reached out to participate in this event. Some of them are Roland's senior dog. This rescue jumped in and immediately offered to take our more senior dogs and or those that are more needy. Aside from our most senior cases, which are very hard to place, they also took in a fellow with 1 eye and another fellow with only 3 legs. A few of them are pictured here. Roland has a long-term partnership with Putnam County and has once again shown as the shining star for us. Although it probably goes without saying, all of the rescues that are featured here are all accepting donations for assistance with these animals. So the Facebook page is listed there, and their Facebook page will take you to a link where they all almost unanimously have a Facebook fundraiser going if anyone has the desire to get it more involved. ARC Animal Rescue Consortium, also an ongoing partnership that's been long-standing that we rely upon and has come through for us time and time again. ARC can be found, again, on Facebook and is also seeking donations with the dogs that they pulled. Almost Home Haven for Animals. This rescue also located in Palatka. And unique to them, they're typically a kitty rescue. But when they heard about the huge hoarding case in Putnam County, they knew they had to help. So they took in 2. Doesn't sound like a lot, but for them to be a kitty rescue in our own town and come to assistance, that was big for us. A Journey to Forever, again, rescue located right here in Putnam County. They're a small foster-based rescue that rely heavily on donations, and they also can be found on Facebook and are accepting donations to care for the dogs. Fawn's Small Dog Rescue. Fawn's Small Dog Rescue pulled many of the dogs that needed significant hygiene or grooming. These are the dogs before, and here's a few fresh after the grooming. Canine Rescue. They pulled many of the dogs that needed socialization. So several of the dogs, a handful of them, lived inside the house with the elderly person and sat on the couch and watched TV with her most of the day. But then you had several that were also outside, that were less socialized and more timid. Canine Rescue has done amazing work, and you can follow the journey on Facebook as well. Clay County Animal Services, aside from bringing officers and resources and trucks and supplies, they also came and they pulled more than 10, I believe 12, of these pups. Flagler County Animal Services, again, aside from providing resources and supplies and officers and manpower, they pulled another 12 of these pups. Florida Urgent Rescue, also known as FUR, is on Facebook, and they pulled many, many pups. Poodles and Pooches Rescue of Florida pulled about 24. To be fair, most of the rescues pulled between 12 on average and 24 pups at each batch. Peggy Adams Animal Rescue League, they pulled many dogs that were in various degrees. So they had some that were more readily vetted and some that needed more medical care. Peggy, they can be found on Facebook. But success story that we're already seeing is Wednesday of last week, 2 business days after the dogs were at the shelter, all 4 of these guys were adopted out into loving homes. And Nate's Honor Animal Rescue. This is the last one we're featuring, and by far the largest resource that came to the table. They arrived and pulled 51 dogs, some of them being pregnant. So it was not but a few days later that their number grew when pregnant dogs began to have babies. They also brought medical supplies and comfort care items for the remaining dogs that were at our shelter. I appreciate your time today.
Julianne, thank you so much. Mr. Adams, you have a comment?
I just have 2 questions because there's 2 questions that have been out there on social media and stuff. I think you addressed the one.
Sure.
All the animals from this are out of our shelter. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the second
Well,
one is,
and let me be.
or have been given to rescues or.
They have, with the exception that we still have a few more timid or scared animals that we're working to capture every day. And so, and that's 1 or 2, but I don't want to.
On the property, you mean?
Everything in our possession has been placed.
Then the other question was, is there still animals left in the woods or around? That was the question that's been asked.
Very few, and we are still working. Animal control officers are still working. We've set traps. We've got provisions in place to attempt to capture those animals as we're able to.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You know, Julianne, I want to say this before you leave, and I'm going to be looking over Mr. Suggs and Mr. Grimes. The comment Mr. Turner made not too long ago, and if you don't mind me stealing it from you.
Depends on which one it was.
Well, I won't say the You know, every day you come to work, staff comes to work, and we have demands put on you, just like everybody else. You have your own jobs to do, and you work for 5 other people, and then you work for 73,000 residents in Putnam County. And then the whole day's blown up, and the whole week's blown up, and then it turns into 2 weeks. And we understand that. And it's frustrating on our part to move that ball forward and land the planes, but some things are just more important. These dogs being happy, these dogs being taken care of, that's a win for Putnam County. I don't care who you are. If you can't understand that's not a win, you don't belong in this county. I'm just telling you. So I want to say to staff how much we appreciate that you come in every day thinking you've got a job to do, and it's completely something different. You know, somebody asked me the other day, what does a county commissioner do? I said we go from A to Z every day, and that's what's great for a type A personality. But when you have budgets and you have personnel and you have things that you've got scheduled, and then all of a sudden 200 dogs that are needing a home, they had a home, but they're needing to be taken care of, come into play. What a tremendous. And Mr. Suggs, thank you for standing up and adopting one. I hate to say that that's why I can't go to the shelter, because I would take them all home with me. But it's just amazing to see what this community and our partners and other communities did to help this situation. We don't get it all the time. We don't. But we take a bad rap in the county for not doing enough. And I tell you, people don't realize how hard you and staff works, and our animal services department works to take care of these animals. Because truly, it's not our responsibility. If I was a pet owner, my pet died, I miss him terribly. It was my responsibility to take care of that pet. And I knew that, you know. It's not the government's responsibility. Thank you, Julianne. Mr. Turner, you had a comment?
Yes, in echoing everything you said, I totally agree. Excuse me. But I think it also needs to be brought out that most of the people that were out there working on this situation is not in their job description.
That's right.
Our deputy county administrator, you look at her job description, or our deputy county administrator for operations, or our administrator who was out there, you won't find in there that they go and have to care about dogs and do things that they've done. It's not in their job description. They put off the business of the county around here. Some of it was very important business because of something more important at the time at hand. So I think that and everybody in here that knows me knows that I'm not very politically correct when it comes to these kind of things, so I'll preface this comment with that. But some of the hell these people's caught on social media is unfounded and unjust. Because they didn't have to go do this. They could have just sent somebody else to do it. They had people to do it, but they didn't. They went out and spearheaded this project themselves and made the best of a bad situation. So again, what happened on Facebook was unjust and out of line. I'm just telling you, it was. And so this commissioner says thank you very much for going up and beyond the call of duty and up and beyond your job description to make the best of a bad situation in our county that we all love. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I agree. All right, thank you, Julianne, for that presentation, and we're going to move on to public comment on agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It's not reasonable to expect that the board will engage or debate or deliberations about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. We will limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed in the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk who sits to the right of the podium. My left, Miss Ashley over here. So do we have any public comments on agenda items? And we do. Mr. Jason Brown, would you like to come forward, sir? And if you will, state your name and address for the record, please, sir, and speak right into the microphone.
Yes, sir. Jason Brown,
Pull it,
520.
you can pull it up to you.
Yes, sir. Kind of short.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Jason Brown, 524 Elmwood Avenue, Palaca, Florida. I'm here in regards to the tow ordinance that we're looking to approve, a rate increase. On behalf of myself, we were invited to a meeting which was 11/27/23 at the Johnson & Johnson's Brothers facility. There's an ongoing situation regarding my business and them as well, so I was unable to attend that meeting. I received the proposal as of 3/20/24, went over it, had a brief discussion with one of the representatives of Johnson & Johnson's Brothers. I'm asking that we maybe postpone this. I'm curious of a data analysis, who did the data analysis, consumer price index, things like that. I'm curious how we came up with the percentage rates that we are proposing. Some of the rates are 100% increase. I'm only looking for in the future, I look for Putnam to be growing as well as our surrounding areas have. We're looking to grow substantially. I don't want to cap us off. If we go 100% now, in 5 years, if we want to do this, do we ask for 100% again? Because it just seems a little too excessive to go that high so quick. One of our former, Terry Walters, he passed away. He was the last one that came in front of this committee and asked for a rate increase. Again, I'm not a percentage person. I haven't sat down to do this. I apologize, I just didn't have the time. I think his last percentage rate was a 25% on certain things that was across the board on certain stuff. I know that I've looked, and Putnam, I think that the last one was 2012. I can't be for certain, but I do know that I have one here that shows filed in 2004. I've looked at St. Johns County, which was 2015, Volusia County 2002, Duval County 2005, Marion County 2008. I've also looked at a few things in there where as far as Duval County, every October 1st since 2005, they're supposed to do a revise. So every year they do a revision of it. So again, what I'm asking is just to look at data analysis, see where we're coming up with these percentage rates, among other things. I mean, I'd like to maybe offer a oversight committee over the recurring businesses here in Putnam County so that we have an outside source, not anybody that's in with the sheriffs or the police departments or within the tow companies itself here, an outside source that is a committee, an oversight committee. So I guess that's about all I have to say, and I feel bad that I'm coming up here because we do need an increase. Our insurance has gone substantially this year. All of ours has gone out the roof. So I guess
Thank you.
that's my time.
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on consent agenda items only? And hearing none, we're going to shut the portion down. Whoops. Please come up and speak in the microphone. I'm sorry.
I wasn't sure if this is when I needed to speak up or if I was given a number for this morning, so I wasn't sure if
You're fine.
this is my opportunity. Okay.
This is your opportunity.
Okay, yay.
Okay, state your
Love
name and
these.
address for the record,
Okay,
please.
so good morning. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Tony Lynn Hammond, and I'm the accountant for Johnson's Towing and Recovery. Johnson's Towing and Recovery is one of 5 local companies that provide emergency and non-consensual towing for the county of Putnam. Today, we join here with Putnam County's rotation wrecker companies to bring a rate increase proposal to the attention of the Board of County Commissioners. On a previous date, we joined with some of the other companies and agreed to what we thought would be necessary changes to continue providing these services. I have prepared some supporting documents for each of you that I would like to provide, if allowed, so that you can follow along.
You may. If you'll give it to Miss Ashley, she'll give it to us at that point. Thank you.
I'll give you mine after Ashley, where you have one for the record.
Putnam County's rotation record companies request a new resolution for Putnam County's Towing and Transport Ordinance 2004-21. This ordinance was initially created May 25, 2004, and filed with the Department of State in Tallahassee on July 12, 2004. The purpose of this ordinance was to establish definitions, exemptions, and maximum fees for non-consensual and trespass towing. In 2010, we came before the board to request a resolution for these rates. The resolution was passed, approved, and adopted on the 26th day of January 2010. Resolution 2010-05 had minimal changes. It increased the hook rate, mileage, and storage for light-duty vehicles. It did not involve any rate increases for medium-duty, heavy-duty, or the separate charges that this ordinance includes. Therefore, the majority of rates involving Ordinance 2004-21 has not been changed in 20 years. Some of the terminology in this ordinance is outdated as well. As we all know, the cost of doing business has increased dramatically during the past 20 years. I would like to focus on some of the things that have played a part in the increase of the cost of rotation towing. And by rotation towing, I just assume that we all know what rotation towing is. This is when there's an accident in town, we get a call, and we're in charge of cleaning the scene of the accident. Okay, so 1 and 2 that I listed in my outline was the cost of fleet. So obviously the cost of a vehicle, we all drive a motor vehicle, so we know the cost of them has went up. I've provided some receipts here in my book. If anyone would like to see a proof of them, I'll be more than happy to provide them. So number 1 is Class A fleet. So a standard rollback purchased in 2002 was for the cost of $63,000. The replacement rollback purchased in 2023 costed $136,000. This is an increase of 115%. Number 2, Class C fleet. A heavy wrecker purchased in 2002 costed us $185,000. A replacement heavy wrecker purchased in 2022 costed us $509,000. I have these bills of sale if anyone would like to see them. This is an increase of 172%. Number 3, I listed insurance. I'm not going to really elaborate on insurance. I feel like it's not really fair to compare one insurance policy to another. But we can all agree as motorists that the cost of insurance has went up. Number 4, equipment, things like tires or hourly labor to replace the tires. I looked at some of our old invoices. Most of my invoices only go back to 2007. So I compared some of my 2007 invoices to what the cost of the tires costs us today. My percentage is 172% cost increase for tires, and the hourly labor is up 107%. These percentages are based on when this ordinance was initiated to today. Number 5, fuel. Fuel's a big thing in the towing world because these trucks are always moving. Diesel was on average $1.62 in 2002. Today, on my way here, I checked the sign and it said $3.84. This is not the only cost in fuel that has accumulated in the last 20 years. There's a new thing called diesel exhaust fluid. This was not required to run in diesel engines back when this ordinance was initiated. It is a requirement now. I spend approximately $400 on a 55-gallon drum of DEF. This would be a 100% cost increase. Last but not least, supplies. These supplies are things that we use to recover a wrecked vehicle, whether it be overturned in the ditch, submerged in the wood line, whatever the case is. It requires oil dry for spills and cable for the winching. I have also brought receipts for those things if you guys would like to compare, but my numbers are there. These are up 114% and 141%. After review of these numbers, the overall price increase for wrecker operators is on average 136%. To get a better idea of what we thought would be acceptable rates for these types of jobs in 2024, we did a lot of research. We looked at surrounding counties, and what we found here within the city of Palatka was quite astonishing. I have brought with me the rates of Flagler County as well as the rates for the city of Palatka. Those are inside your packet. The city of Palatka's rates show that they were initiated back in 2010. The Class A hook price is still nearly twice as much as what the county's is today.
Can you bring it in for a landing, please? If you don't, you've got a lot of information.
I do, thank you.
But we are over
All
our
right,
time.
I'm finishing up right
Okay.
here. So we have prepared a rate proposal for all of you to review. The average increase we are requesting would be 92%. This is not nearly as much as the 136% cost increase that we previously mentioned. We wish to continue serving the motorists of Putnam County with up-to-date equipment and highly skilled operators. However, this requested increase makes a resolution absolutely necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Adamczak, and then Ms. Wilkinson.
What, and only because you're here, so it's kind of convenient. Because I researched some of this as well. What, like if you did it, how does it work if you do a tow and like I have Progressive Insurance? So I have towing.
Typically it
So
comes.
do you get charged, do I get charged by the county and Progressive
No.
pays?
So obviously, if you have full coverage insurance, your insurance would pick up your bill. Now, every motorist has the right to an owner's request. So if you're at the scene of an accident and you want to own or request a company, you can. But the majority do not. It goes up for rotation. That deputy or trooper, whoever it is, has the right to call it in. And that next person up on rotation is who gets the call, and they rotate us out as wrecker operators.
So if you take a call from like your Progressive or AAA
Now, I'll
or
take a
something?
call from the sheriff's office.
No, if you do.
Yeah.
Separate from this process.
Right.
What do you charge for a call? For a regular car?
Actually, believe it or not, so our cost increases has went up a lot for cash customers, but they haven't in 20 years for accidents. So unfortunately, my cash customers are paying nearly what a wreck pays today because those have had multiple increases in the last 20 years, and this hasn't in 20 years.
Right, and what's that amount? That's what I was.
I would say $75 hook for a car staying in town, maybe something like that.
Thanks.
Ms. Wilkinson?
Tony, thank you. So basically, you, besides the fact that you've used your expenses, actual expenses
Yes,
from
ma'am.
then to now, that's a great comparison. You've also reviewed, your data analysis has City of Palatka and Flagler County as basically comps.
Right.
Comparables that, and what, the policies that they've adopted. And you've taken that into consideration, it looks
Yes,
like.
and the main reason why I chose Flagler is because a lot of the counties are looking like us at a 20-year or 15-year. A lot of them are going a long time without a rate increase. And if I remember correctly, Putnam County was one of the first ones to set an example last time with a rate increase. And I know Flagler's was just approved last year. And I really compared a lot to Flagler because so sometimes Johnson's Towing is one of the only ones in Putnam County that provide the heavy-duty hauling. And sometimes if we get a tractor trailer accident and it requires something like a rotator or airbags, we don't typically have those things. And a lot of times in our ordinance, we have the right of contracting out another company. If I was to have to call a company to help with a recovery like that, our companies are in Flagler. This is their ordinance. This is what they're going to charge me. So if they charge me $12,000 for the airbags and my ordinance says I can only charge $5,000, I'm out of pocket $7,000.
Wow. Okay. I understand this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate that. So, all right, anybody else want to speak on agenda items? All right, commissioners, we're going to go to pulling consent agenda. Commissioner Pickens, do you have any items you want to pull?
Yeah, I guess I want to pull, since we're discussing it, the item C.
Item C, okay. Commissioner Adamczak,
Item F.
Commissioner Wilkinson,
I have none.
Commissioner Turner,
None additional.
okay, and I have none, so the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of consent agenda A, B, D, E, and F.
Second.
We have proper motion, proper second. Any further comment on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Mr. Pickens, you have the floor for item C, the established rates for towing.
Thank you, Chairman Harvey. And I was trying to remember back if this has ever come to us before, and I don't guess that it has. And Terry Walters, I knew him well. I graduated high school with him. He was a fine man.
He was.
I mentioned to staff this morning, and this was just where this landed. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody. I think this should have come as new business, as a workshop with the amount of information in here. One big problem is not coming to us or not asking for an increase in, 20 years? Is that what it is?
It's 10 years.
Okay,
Okay, but to go over this, at least to see it every couple of years, I think would be beneficial for both sides. And I'm in business, so I understand costs and everything like that. I'm not in the towing business, but I'm in the auto parts business, so we work with the tow people. I know Vicki Burkett back there really well. So that would be my suggestion, is maybe to send this to a workshop to let us review this a little more, get some more information, and then make an educated increase, and then maybe even some increased allowances moving forward. So that's all I have.
thank you, Mr. Pickens. Mr. Adamczak.
Yeah. I don't know that we need to do that in this case. I mean, I did a bunch of research on it. I think her numbers align with what we already have in our packet. And in 22 years, I think most of it's 100% or whatever isn't unreasonable. I've been towed literally 2 weeks ago in Marion County, and it was because I got sideswiped by someone on 301. It was more than that. So I think it's competitive compared to what I see in other things from people I've called that do towing, and from tows that I've personally had. So I have no problem moving it forward the way it is written today.
Thank you, Mr. Adamczak. Mr. Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't really have a problem with the increases that have been asked for today. I probably have a problem with how it's been being handled. Mr. Pickens, I think, kind of touched on that, and I feel the same way. This should have been under new business, or this should have been something that, or went to workshop. And everybody knows I'm not big on workshop because I believe you can handle it under new business in most cases in the deal. I would propose that because this is new, that we table this agenda item today and we put it on the next meeting under new business where it can be researched and discussed and talked about in an open forum. I really don't think at all that I'm against what they're asking for. I really don't. But I think that we owe it to the public to at least discuss it in public and not pass it as a backroom deal on the consent agenda. I just really feel like that. And so I think that that's what we need to do. I think we need to put this off until the next meeting and put it on new business where it can be vetted in the open like it should be vetted. That's just my opinion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Pickens, you have the floor.
Yeah, and I may not have worded it right, because we used to have regular workshops in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. I'm with putting this on the agenda item for new business at our next meeting for for discussion and maybe even some public input. So I'm with that, so.
Thank you, and I'm not opposed to that either. I do realize you need an increase, there's no doubt about it, but I do believe that the proper format would be to go do that. And I think there were some different points of view, and I want to take all that in, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if you're
sir.
ready for a motion.
I am, sir.
I move that we table this item to the next meeting and it be placed on new business at the next meeting.
Proper motion by Commissioner Turner. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Proper second by Commissioner Pickens. Any further discussion on the motion at hand? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Thank you. We'll have it on the next agenda.
And if I may just say something, Mr.
You
Chairman.
may, sir.
Guys, I'm not against your increase. I'm not. I just think it needs to be vetted correctly to the public and not just shoved through the consent agenda. So, this is the proper way to do it.
We'll have it on the next one, guaranteed, okay? Thank you. All right, next item up is our codes enforcement. Thomas, are you here?
Yeah, item F.
I'm sorry?
Item F I pulled.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, I didn't hear that.
yes.
Yeah. I pulled F.
I didn't, we passed
She
it.
didn't say it.
Say item F, but we passed it as part of what the motion was, so.
Yeah, I'm not objecting to it. I'm just pulled it for advertising sake. So
Okay.
the Melrose Mayfair and Music Festival is May 4th, 2024. It's in our agenda. It's at Heritage Park in Mossman Hall from noon to 8 p.m. It's a great little event in that little park down there. And I don't know if everyone out there on the internet has been to many events in Melrose, I'm sure, and it's just a really cool event. So I didn't pull it for any objection or anything. Just
No, thank you,
to
Commissioner.
let everyone know
I'm-
that it is a cool event that's happening soon.
I'm sorry I didn't hear you, and I have met with the business owners out there, and they do not mind the road closure. So, okay, I'm sorry. I just did not hear that, so I apologize. My age is getting to me, as you can't hear everything like I used to.
Don't admit it.
Okay, don't admit it. What?
Don't let the old man in.
That's exactly right, isn't it? That's a true song right there. Okay, Thomas, where are you at?
Is there anybody here today, Mr. Chairman?
I'm fixing to ask that. Is anybody in the audience for Codes Case 2006-00653? Richard Bronson?
Or 265, or 587, or 540.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience for codes enforcement cases today? Anybody in the audience for codes enforcement cases today? Seeing no hands, nobody standing up, we'll move on. Thomas, you ready? Yes, sir,
I
Mr.
don't really need Thomas to go ahead.
I hear you.
I mean, if y'all want to just do it like we've been doing.
I'm
the
fine
last
with that,
several
Mr. Turner.
meetings. Mr. Chairman, with regards to Codes Case 2006-00653, I move that we reduce the fine to $1,474 if paid within 90 days.
Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion on the
I'd
motion?
like to just say one thing. This is one of the ones that's closest to my house, and I drove by it, and it is a huge difference from what that lot was before. And I love this program, and it's really great, but usually we haven't had any out not by me. So this one happened to be out by me. I drove past it several times, and it's been a huge improvement on that lot since this.
If you think we're
these
trying to
people
rush
bought it.
something through, we're not. We're really wanting compliance, and when things come into compliance, we're ready to move forward. That's our main goal as a county commission. So we have a proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
with
sir.
regards to case 2007-00265, that's the right one, I move we reduce fine to $1,500 if paid within 90 days.
Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion?
This one has a tax surplus?
Yes, sir. I have a tax surplus I wanted to use.
Okay, well, then it would just come out of the tax surplus is all it would do.
I amend the second.
Yep. Okay, we have a proper motion that's been amended and a proper second been amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, and by the way, thank you for bringing that to my attention, Commissioner Pickens. I missed that one on that one. Code case number 2014-00587. I move that we reduce the fine to $2,000. Staff recommendation of $2,266 if paid within 90 days.
Second.
Proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to case 2018-00540, I move that we take staff recommendation of $2,068 if paid within 90 days.
Second.
And that's on tax surplus too.
And that,
It's anticipated.
under discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Under discussion?
Matt, how would we handle that? I guess we don't know how much surplus there is yet. What, it says that there's one that's anticipated.
That's pending. Correct. I would say that you guys could pass that motion just like you have in the past and just say that whatever excess funds go back to the proper
Okay,
entity.
if it's less than, then someone would have to pay the difference, and if it's
Correct.
more than, it would come out of the reserve, or the excess funds,
Yes,
and
sir.
then, okay. So,
That's your motion? Yes.
yes, sir, that's my motion.
Second.
That's your second, Mr. Adams. Thank you. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Commissioners.
Thank you, Thomas. Appreciate it. Appointments, starting to my left, Mr. Pickens.
I have none.
Starting over to my right, Mr. Adamsack.
I have none today.
Mr. Turner.
I have none.
Ms. Wilkinson.
I have none.
And I have none. Now, our next item on the agenda is public comment on miscellaneous items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect the board will engage in debate or deliberation on matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are located at the right of the meeting room and should be given to Ashley before that. You don't have to fill out a card, but we appreciate it. We are going to limit comments to 3 minutes, so please, who's our first card?
Dan Steele.
Dan Steele.
Good morning, County Commissioners. My name is Dan Steele. I live at 202 May Lane out by Trout Lake out there in Interlaken. I'm going to call that the new Putnam because we're even getting a Taco Bell in Interlaken. So, you know, we're moving up.
You
But I'm
Ann-
here to talk about the roads.
You bought Ann Miller's place.
Yes, I did. Nice house. The roads are so bad out there. In fact, my truck, I've already had to have the cab mounts replaced in it, which is very expensive. And I can walk faster than I can drive my truck in some places. It's that bad out there. I have worked on Twin Lakes Boulevard, excuse me, and I've cut trees back on that. I've tried to make the road safer for everybody out there that drives it. I've even graded it a couple times at my own expense and my own time. But they're terrible. We would like to, out there, like to see a couple of roads that would tie into Lakeview Trail out there so we can go to Gainesville without going east to go back west. I mean, it doesn't make any sense now with the price of fuel and gas and everything. And I'd like to propose something else, and I don't know if it'll fly or not. There's a lot of people in Putnam County that are retirees that have driven trucks, heavy equipment, loaders, dozers, compactor, and like that. Would there be a possibility for the county to hire these people? They don't need insurance. They don't need to be even full-time. But if we can get the equipment, we could put in a mile of road, probably 2/3 the price of what somebody else can. We can save a lot of money. We can cover more ground. We're going to take pride in what we're doing. We're going to put that road in right, and we'll save a lot of money doing it. And I'd like to see if that can't fly somewhere. I don't know, you can't be full-time, so if you work 89 days, I guess, and then lay them off for one day and then hire them back if you want to hire them back. But we could definitely do the work and make it, take pride in our county of doing it. Also, the other thing is, can someone change that 50-mile-an-hour speed limit on Highway 20? That thing there, you come on any other road into Putnam County, they're all 60 mile an hour and above. That road being 50 miles an hour from Interlaken to Hawthorne is kind of ridiculous.
Mr. Steele, I'm going to say two things. Attend the MSBU meeting that you've been told about, And also, they're not driving 50. I almost got run over the other day. And so
Yeah, but
don't
they're getting
worry about-
tickets. They're
Yeah.
handing out a lot of tickets there.
Good for them. So thank you. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Ralph Hagee?
How y'all doing?
Good.
I'm Ralph Hagee. I live at 112 Paul Drive in Hollister. And I do have a map. If y'all familiar with the roads in Interlochen?
Yeah.
Y'all? Okay, because I do have a map if you're not. What I'm talking about is the road to, are you familiar with Flamingo Road?
Yep.
Well, if Flamingo
Very
turns
much
into
so.
to Rome.
Yes.
And then, if you come down Jackson Terrace and then come on to Union, that makes a complete circle from 315 over to, so another access to go out for safety and for, I'm just going from dirt to pave is what I'm trying to, got a little stage fright, but that's okay.
No, you're fine. You're
But
fine.
anyway, I'm trying to get the dirt to pave there because it's a safety thing, and then you also have, bus routes and stuff like that. And my main concern is that I'm a renter. I'm a landlord. I rent property out there, but we're starting to get more people living in tents, and it's starting to. It's an easy access for them to live in the woods when it's not, paved, and to where we can start putting more houses in there.
You're fine. You're fine.
Anyway.
We understand. Go
But
ahead.
anyway, I just want to make sure I get everything in here. But it's just that I've seen a lot more riffraff coming in there, and people are getting more scared. You would be scared if you had to live next door to somebody living in a tent. You don't even know who they are. But and the other nexus would be the. I just want to see Interlochen grow. If we continue leaving it dirt, then we're not going to progress. We're really not. I mean, it's a cesspool for people come in and just camp out. But and on your behalf, I've got 6 rescues. I've got 4 dogs. I lost one. He's 16 years old, but anyway, I had 2 cats, and I commend you on that. So, but if I was a millionaire, I'd probably have my whole backyard full of them. But anyway, I would just like to address that. Just be aware. I mean, if y'all not familiar with the roads, I got a map here to show you, and the
Mr.
roads
Hagee,
in between.
Mr. Hagee, I do feel like I owe you an explanation. This board does understand that. In West Putnam MSBU, there's 96 miles of dirt roads.
Mm-hmm.
I get 1 mile a year. Okay,
Right.
This board understands that.
Wow.
And before I got here, we didn't pave roads inside of an MSBU, but we are now. So we're moving forward. It's slow steps. We are trying to, I know Mr. Adams has got some paving going on. I've got some going on. The problem with West Putnam MSBU is the elevations that are out there. It's the highest.
Right, I understand
It's the highest point in Putnam County. And we don't own any lots out there to put drainage. Everything was sold. But we are looking, let me assure you, I mean, you saw what I did with Mariners Lake. You saw what we did with Lakeview. You saw that.
Right.
That started helping. We're going to start looking at some other areas. But work with Tony back there. Tony, raise your hand.
Yeah, I know who Tony is.
Okay. All right. Well, let me call on Mr. Adamczyk. He has a comment, and we'll move from there. Okay, Mr. Adamczyk?
I would just say this. I mean, there is the possibility of a paving MSBU, which is a citizen-based thing. I will say that the 2 or 3 since I've been here, where the people in the MSBU thought that the rest of the people would want to do it, failed. But that is an option if you know the people in the area or certain roads that you could get together and try to pull people together to try to do a paving MSBU for a specific area. But But again, so far, since I've been here, every one of those, the citizens didn't get behind it like the people that wanted it paved thought they would. I'll
Mr.
just,
Hagee,
I'll just
if
warn
you-
you with that, but I would recommend going and talking to all the people and seeing if they would be interested.
You know where I live, and that road's paved. That road was paved by the citizens of Putnam County, not the county, okay? We all got together like Mr. Adams Act did. We paid $238 a year for 15 years.
I did the same thing.
To get that road paved.
Right.
I had a couple guys standing there the other day kind of bashing me about some of the roads we're paving down by there. And I said, these people paid, but they
Right.
still live on dirt road, but they're not doing that anymore. We're getting this done. So it is taking little steps, but we are moving forward.
But that would be another option too.
It's an
because the
option.
people
It is
in
an option.
Hollister, we had to pay like you did,
Right.
and it was very very good for us to have that road paved because Hoover Road was horrible.
Oh,
I
you'd
mean,
go down and come by. We
but
all knew that.
But I appreciate you.
Thank you,
but
Mr. Hagee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You're fine, thank you.
No, you're fine, Mr. Hagee. Steve Carrier, you're next. Please state your name and address for the record.
All right, thank you. Good morning. My name is Stephen Carrier. I live in Jacksonville, so I'm not a Putnam County resident.
Welcome to Florida.
I've been here 5 years and I love it.
I'm teasing.
All right, so I'm the manager of the Florida State Animal Response Coalition and a member of the State Agriculture Response Team, which supports ESF 17 for agriculture and animal response here in Florida. We provide disaster response for communities and families with companion pets in disasters and emergencies. We also support temporary and emergency sheltering for local and national animal rescue boarding cases. Since 2011, we've trained over 4,000 shelter and animal control staff and the public to help communities with situations similar to your recent 200-plus dog rescue case. When asked to help your community, we immediately engaged with many well-established shelters and programs in Florida who are part of the Florida Association of Animal Welfare Organizations. We also received major support from the University of Florida Veterinary Medicine and Sheltering Program. In a matter of just a few hours from a phone call from your emergency manager, we coordinated hospital, quarantine, sheltering, transport, medical, and adoption services capable of rescuing all 208 dogs off your hands. I want to repeat that, all 208 dogs. I'm a little nervous and I'm a little upset how this transpired because our organization went way out of our way to help you guys. And so forgive me if I seem a little tense. Volunteers from our 960-person disaster responder program and a mobile animal response equipment trailer were requested. Everyone who responded to the call was ready. We strongly recommended postponing your adoption event to reduce the threat that unfixed, untreated animals with unknown diseases would create. We were told this event was going to happen regardless. The next morning, other rescues began arriving at your EOC without prior knowledge to your emergency manager, who we were coordinating with. The ones we coordinated were turned away. Peggy Adams Rescue League sent a team starting at 3 a.m. from West Palm Beach, driving 4.5 hours to pick up the 30 or 40 dogs that we coordinated to be picked up, only to be told they weren't getting them. They did receive a few. SPCA Florida, my employer, en route with supplies and donations, was turned away after arranging to pick up an additional 10 to 12 dogs. By our best estimates, 73, about 36%, went to the rescues we coordinated, and Nate's Honor was one of them. About 45 or 20%, even though they did receive vaccinations at your adoption event, were adopted to the public unfixed. The remaining 86 or so, 88, 44% were transferred to other rescues or groups, and that's not to say they weren't valuable to this effort. Furthermore, when a free spay or neuter opportunity was coordinated last Sunday at First Coast No More Homeless Pets, for those 133 that we didn't help coordinate, only 5 animals showed up, about 4% of that number. If we'd been allowed to carry out what we were invited to do through your Emergency Operations Center, the biosecurity risk and breeding problem would have been far less to your community, and I'm almost done.
Thank you, Mr. Carrier.
May I continue? I have one more paragraph. And that's
Go
it.
right ahead,
Okay.
really quick.
We feel the very heart of animal rescue and safety in our state was undermined. We also feel the basic tenets of incident command, unity of command, clear messaging and objectives, clear coordination, and understanding use of available resources were also disregarded as it relates to our participation in this exercise. This experience continues to erode relationships between nonprofits and government, which need our help, especially where your resources are already stretched too thin to handle cases like this. And by the way, great job. I realize it was very time-consuming and a huge strain on you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Carrier. We need to wrap this up.
Okay. These relationships need strengthening, not straining, so that we can successfully do the job we were asked to do when you ask us, which is to rescue and adopt out only fixed and vaccinated pets, keep our shelters number low, and keep your community safe.
Thank you,
you.
sir. Not going to happen today. You can do all the standing, clapping. I'll ask you to be removed if that continues. Thank you. Amy Cartento. Amy Cartento, thank you for coming, please. Thank you, Mr. Wells.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Amy Caratenuto. I'm the executive.
I'm sorry I butchered your name.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm the executive director of Flagler Humane Society. I'm also the president of Florida Animal Protection and Advocacy Association, and I'm on the board of directors of Florida Association of Animal Welfare Organizations. I understand how staggering an event like this can be. My shelter busted a 400-dog puppy mill many years ago, so I understand that this kind of thing is overwhelming. That said, you had so much help on the way, legitimate statewide organizations, doctors, help from the University of Florida, First Coast No More Homeless Pets, reputable rescue groups and shelters. I left voicemails and emails with your deputy county administrator begging her to postpone the dog giveaway. I said, y'all deserve to be hailed as heroes after this kind of a rescue. I hate to see you butchered on social media for some bad decisions for some dogs. These dogs' lives could have been so much different. Instead of going to areas of the state that have resources to provide complete veterinary care and adopters willing to go through the slow stage of getting to know the animals that are scared, instead they were handed over with minimal vaccines. Were they microchipped?
Yes.
The dogs that are leaving from my shelter from this are going home with air tags, which the air tags can be synced up to an app on the adopter's phone. So if the dogs get away, they can track exactly where they're at. But Putnam administration handed them to people that weren't trained on how to care for unsocialized, scared to death animals. There will be people bitten if there haven't been already. There will be dogs that get lost. There was also no true provision to ensure state statute required spay-neuter. Under state statute 823.15, animal control agencies must either sterilize dogs and cats prior to adoption or enter into a written agreement and collect a deposit. I don't know that deposits were collected. State statute requires a deposit to, and again, enter into a written agreement guaranteeing that sterilization be performed within 30 days or prior to maturity. Failure by either side to comply with this is a non-criminal violation punishable by $500 fine. Next time a situation like this happens, and it will because you've got unsterilized dogs that were given away, please allow officers, your officers that know animal welfare, to do their jobs, and allow animal welfare agencies nearby to help and accept the help. It will be better financially for your county, and it'll be better for your citizens and better for the animals.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Mike Merrill, you're next. And then Diane Sykes, if you'll be on deck.
Hi, my name is Mike Merrill. I'm the founder and executive director of Florida Urgent Rescue. A couple of you might remember me from 9 years ago when I was here, different issues. I founded Florida Urgent Rescue in 2015, and since then we have pulled more than 600 dogs and cats from the Putnam County shelter. As a foster-based rescue, we do what every other rescue in this hoarding case would have done, and those that actually pull dogs do. When a dog comes in from a hoarding case, they must be quarantined. They should not be adopted out to members of the public in 48 to 72 hours. That's a violation of every single tenet, every single best practice of shelter medicine. Somebody made a statement from the county saying we did not adopt out sick dogs. How could you possibly know? You don't know. You can't do that. Vaccinating them on the way out the door is not proper vet care. That's one element of it. But what we do,
You're
and what we
speaking to
did-
us. You're speaking to,
Excuse me?
yeah, you're speaking to us.
Yeah, okay. So what we do and what we did was we run full blood work, including heartworm test. We run fecal, which we heard anecdotally from the shelter staff. I had spent 2 days at the shelter during this event, and there were dogs sitting, there were pools of diarrhea in every kennel. That could be change in diet, but could be hookworms or other parasites, could be coccidia or giardia. We heard from people at the shelter that these dogs have coccidia. We tested. That takes a few days to get that back. You can't get that test back in 3 days. So Florida Urgent Rescue pulled 23 of these dogs, 19 of which went to Poodle and Pooch. We later took in 5 more. We took in 3 from the Rollins, and we took 2 that were returned by adopters. The first 6 that we got the blood work back and the lab results back, 5 of the 6 have coccidia and cryptosporidium. 6 of the 6 have hookworms. Those are zoonotic. They can be transferred to kids, to family members, to other pets. These unsuspecting adopters have no idea, and they're not going to go to their vet and say, hey, can you check for coccidia? It's not something that they would think to do. This adoption event should not have happened. There was no need. We put in a rescue hold for 100 dogs, and we were told, no, you're not allowed. You can't have that many. You can only have the original 35, of which we got 23, because there were too many other rescues involved. Too many rescues were turned away with 0 after sitting there for hours. There was no need to hold an adoption event and to adopt out animals that had not been quarantined, had not been properly vetted, and had not been spayed or neutered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Diane Sykes, you're next.
Can I add this to the record?
Please give it to Miss Ashley. She'll do it. Thank you.
Diane Sykes, 304 Chestnut Street, Crescent City, Florida. And I too am talking on the adoption event, though I do appreciate that the county wanted to resolve this as quickly as possible. Those dogs had been there for a long time, and 2 extra days to allow the shelters to come in and the rescues to come in and do it the right way wouldn't have hurt. And in the long run, you would have had a better outcome.
Thank you. Jennifer Pierce, and then Jenny Oakwood.
So I'm not with a rescue, I'm just a private citizen.
That's okay.
And I wanted to say that I agree with what you guys said about trying to do your best to make the best of this situation, and that you probably weren't, you're not experienced in handling any of this. So it was a huge, I can see where it could have been tough. So the plus side of that event was that a lot of long-term dogs were adopted, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. What if, in moving forward, we tried to advertise some events like this? And, I'm sorry.
You're fine, go ahead.
The new facility that I guess has been promised for the past 3 years, that could be so huge. That little facility that we have is sad and disheartening. I wish that you guys would go and look at it if you haven't been there recently, because it's sad. Also, I would like to know why we don't hold people accountable for things like this, like not necessarily hoarding, but not spaying and neutering, letting their animals run free. Wouldn't it benefit some way to issue fines for things like that? not only could it benefit the animal control and give them funds to do more with what they have, and then I live out in Florham, and 3 years ago, a gentleman was attacked by pit bulls on a bicycle and just ripped to shreds. This past week, another person was attacked over in Keystone, pit bulls ripped to shreds. I love the breed. I'm not saying it's a bad breed. I'm saying that there's a problem with people letting their animals roam free. They need to be held accountable. There's got to be some way that we can work together to hold these people accountable so things like this aren't happening. The dogs aren't breeding like crazy everywhere and having strays to where it's overflowing our animal control. They're doing the best they can, and I give them props, and everybody that have dealt with this situation, it's not easy. I can't even imagine. But in the past month, we've had 100 dogs here, 200 dogs here, 140 dogs here. Just last week, it was Union County. It's a problem. So I just wish that there's some way we could work together to fix it and move forward and do the right thing. Thank you.
Mr. Adams.
Yeah, it's not specific to what she's saying, but I'm very appreciative for what staff did from a perspective of the hard work that went into it. Can we always improve on what we're doing? Absolutely. I think people have made some good points on Facebook, and people have made some crazy points that were unfounded. I mean, there's a balance to that anytime that you have Facebook. What I'll say is this is, and some of the rescues that are here I've never met before, some of them I have, we have a need for rescue every day in this county. It's not because we had 208 animals. There's 500 animals out there right now that we could go pick up, but we have nowhere to put them. So that's a fact in Putnam County. There's people in our county that are shooting animals when they come on their property because there is nowhere to put them. So, I mean, if you guys want to start pulling animals, I think we could probably arrange that every week for perpetual. I mean, in the dozens, because it's a constant issue. And until we have somewhere to put them, and building a new animal control, I mean, I'm an advocate.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully support spade and neuter laws. But until we do that, the new animal control facility, the day it's built, is going to be filled. So I'm just saying, we do have a need to get animals out of the county every day. So
thank you, Mr. Adams. Jenny Oakwood? And that's my last card that I have.
Jeannie Oakwood, address 1952 South Highway 17 in Crescent City. I agree with all the statements made to here today. We took in 14. One of them is in hospice. She was 15 years old plus and has cancer. We had 2 that we had to place in isolation due to respiratory. And I learned a lot from this event. One thing, as a leader, I need to put money aside for these horrific hoarder situations. I have an additional suggestion. We should have permits and fees for any breeders in Putnam County. I see signs constantly about French doggies and poodles and labs, and they are selling them $5,000 plus. That's a way that the county and the health department can bring in more income to our county. We learn from incidents like this. All of us here present with the orange shirt, except for myself, Kathy from SAFE, and Mike, are here to help you. I really believe that we need a strategic plan, putting our heads together with Ms. Young, Mr. Helms, Kathy from Animal Control, and us. Will be glad to assist you in any way that we can. Just like planning for hurricanes, this is the same concept. This will happen again. It will, and I'm working diligently to have a spay and neuter trailer and facility here in this county, and that will happen. And I want to conclude to all of you here today is the importance of having this new shelter. I hope and pray that it happens this year, because if it doesn't, we are going to be in more hot water. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oakwood. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Please come up and state your name. Mr. Miller, you've already done that. No, I'm good. Thank you. if you don't mind.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jody Blood. I live at 213 Medlock Street in Interlaken.
Yes, ma'am.
I am a frequent volunteer at Animal Control. And I just wanted to state that the one thing that I haven't heard too many people mention today is the person, the actual hoarder, who was in this situation. I've only lived in the county for 3 years, and I can tell you that I've lived up north, I've lived in the Midwest, I've lived in another county in Florida, and I've never seen anything like the animal situation in Putnam. It's definitely out of control. I live in Lake Estates. That pretty much says it all. But the person, the lady that was the actual owner of these dogs, I was told that this is the second time that Animal Control has had to go in and remove a very large number of dogs. The last time was between 15 and 20 years ago, so it was before the computer system was put in, so it would be something that would be located in an archive. Was told that this woman was out of the hospital and that she was receiving some of her dogs back. I assisted Pretty Paws with some of the grooming. One of them was an extremely elderly poodle who had an eye that had rotted out of her head. She had very few teeth. She had never been socialized. She did not appear to have ever had a bath. I've never seen fleas like this in my life. It was, you could almost not see that one of the dogs was partially white because there were so many fleas on this animal. I'm hoping that if this person is given back any animals, I do understand if she is, they are going to be spayed and neutered, but that there's going to be some sort of severe fine, something hanging over her head, because I do not believe that a short visit to the hospital for a leg injury is going to resolve the mental illness that is hoarding, and it is a mental illness. And I do want to say that I was at the shelter the day that the adoption event was going on, and the staff are some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my 51 years on this planet. They don't work there for the money. They work there because they love the animals. Kathy, Brittany, Brian, everybody that works there is amazing, and they took this situation and the lack of communication and the lack of allowing their feedback, since they're the ones that work with the animals every day, they took that very personally, in my opinion. It was a very emotional situation. And I know everybody did the best they could in a hard situation, but if we could possibly do something to assist with these situations with the mental health aspect of it, it may prevent us from going back. I know she's elderly, so I don't see us going back in 15 years and getting another 100 dogs because she's in her late 70s, but what if she was in her 40s or in her 50s? So if we don't resolve the actual mental illness, she's just going to go out and collect dogs again. And then this is going to end up to be the same situation.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Mr. Travis, I got a comment.
I just want to reiterate what she said. The important thing is, and I heard it from everyone that called me complaining about what happened and saying good things, is that the people that were working their butts off. And whether we got everything 100% right or not, I do appreciate Pookie and all their staff and everyone else that was actually working on the ground and trying to do what they felt was right at the time. We can improve, like I said, but people did work their asses off, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, that ends our public comment period, and now we'll go to Clerk of the Court, Mr. Matt Reynolds. I'm sorry, you had a comment? Just please come up to the microphone and state your name. I'm going to allow this. Sorry, Mr. Clerk, if you'll wait just a moment.
I apologize. My name is Mallory Kruger. I live at 1604 Green Street in Palatka. It's really just a quick question. Everybody here has covered everything that I had to say. I think the whole purpose of this was to have the issue added to the next agenda to actually be able to have discourse on it, because, you know, we were blatantly told at the beginning there will be no discourse, there will be no argument because it's not on the agenda, all of that. So does a formal motion need to be made to put it on the next agenda? How do we go about that? Because I heard the towing people get theirs put on the next agenda, so how do we do that?
That would be up to a commissioner to put it on and to bring it forward if they wanted to do that. At this point, I think we've heard from everybody, and I think what you've heard today is people have done the best job they can possibly do in moving this county forward.
Okay, and fair enough to a certain extent, but then who is going to be held accountable, or who is going to follow through on those dogs that were adopted out, that were not spayed and neutered, that those promissory notes, were there dates that they had to have that completed by? Did they have to put down a deposit
Well,
if
if you
they
read
didn't?
if you heard the public comment, it's not reasonable to expect us to deliberate on items that we don't know about. You can laugh at me all
No,
day
I'm
long.
not,
This
sir,
is
I'm
a-
not laughing.
No,
That
you
was
have some
literally my
people
question.
behind you that did. I'm just saying, this is my first attempt to hear this, okay?
And I respect that
So,
fully,
but
but
yes.
that's why my
So
question
if the
is,
commissioner
how can we
wants to
get
bring
it?
it to the next agenda, we can do that and have a discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Mr.
before
Turner.
we, wait a minute, before we, no. You don't place it on the agenda just because you don't, that she doesn't agree with what we did.
I agree with that.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna bow up. The staff did the best they could do.
Animal control staff did,
They
yes,
did
I
the
agree.
best they did, and they didn't have to go help them either. They could have sat in their office next door and let animal services go take care of this by
Honestly, it
themselves.
probably would have been better that way.
Okay, we're not going to do this.
That's your opinion and not mine.
And that's why I asked that it be added to the
Okay.
agenda so that we can
Well,
have an actual
thank you.
discourse about it.
Thank you for your time. Okay?
So what I'm hearing is the towing people are more important than the rest of this 20 people that came out to represent the community and to say there was a giant issue with this. I understand that you did the best that you could. It wasn't good
Thank you
enough.
for bringing it to our
It
attention.
wasn't good enough.
Thank you for bringing it to our
Okay,
attention.
this will not be the last that you hear from
Thank
us,
you.
guaranteed.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we do have an Animal Services Committee, so I do think that that is where the conversation should start. I'm not saying that to not want it in front of us. I think it should come to us. And I know my appointee for the Animal Services Committee is in the audience. I think I would love to see this as something that they discuss and maybe review. I think they can take that upon themselves to review what happened and see where things can be improved. And I think any citizen can go to that. It's an open meeting. I don't know what day it is, but any citizen can go to that meeting. It is a public meeting. And I'm more than happy if they come up with some ideas from that to me personally to put it on the agenda, but not just as a flailing, wide open thing. Let's put this on the agenda with no guidelines at all. So if the Animal Services Committee could come up with things that they think we could have improved, when you could give input to that committee on that, and then I think we can have it as an agenda item in the future. So I think that would make sense.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Turner?
Mr. Chairman, I want to apologize for my actions a minute ago. It upset me tremendously. It upset me tremendously when somebody comes in and they belittle our staff and they belittle our people because they didn't agree with what they did or whatever. This just goes to show you.
We're not going to do that.
This just goes to show you that no matter what you do in politics, somebody's going to be upset. Somebody's going to be upset. I thought they did the best they could. In fact, I thought they went above and beyond the best they could.
Me too.
I'm just telling you. And so some people are upset that it wasn't handled. Some rescues didn't get all the dogs where they could turn around and use the dogs for revenues because they actually use the dogs to help with revenues. And I'm not saying.
Okay, that's the end of that.
Thank you. I'm not saying one way or the other, except for the fact that I know that they charge for their services and they charge for somebody to rescue the animals. So like I said,
you did fine.
You just can't make some people happy no matter what you do. But I'm not going to sit here and let members of the public belittle staff over what I thought was stepping way up and above what they had to do in their daily jobs to make a bad situation better.
Point well taken. Mr. Clerk of the Court, Matt Reynolds, I'm sorry. My
Good
tongue got
morning,
tied
Mr.
there.
Chairman. I have nothing for you. Thank you.
Thank you. County Attorney, Mr. Rich Commando.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So normally I don't have much of a report, but being the conversation we had today, early on in the process related to the animals, Ms. Young reached out to me and we actually went through the statute as to what the statute required, what we were able to accomplish, and we looked at that 823.15. I'm sorry, we did reach out to the 823, or look through the 823.15, and we did comply with the statute. So we put together written agreements where we could make sure that we were doing everything as a county that we could possibly do at the time. So Unfortunately, some of our internal conversations don't make it out to the public, but as you've described, not just did the county staff do everything they possibly could have, but under the circumstances, they actually reached out and they followed the law. So I just want to make sure that you as a commission are aware of the steps they took.
Thank you, Mr. Commando. County Administrator, Mr. Suggs.
I'm sorry, I believe Commissioner Wilkinson may have had a comment.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask a question. I didn't push my button.
Go right ahead, I'm sorry.
One of the things that I don't believe you just discussed in your presentation, Ms. Young, is the microchipping. Did we microchip animals or dogs before they were released to the public?
The animals were microchipped when they were loaded at the shelter, yes, ma'am.
So
every animal that was microchipped.
Okay. All right, I knew that was a question that was asked. Thank you.
Mr. Suggs?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning as well. I understand why everybody left, but there are some comments that were made here this morning that, as county administrator, I'm going to address directly. Who made the decision? I did. County administrator is responsible for the decisions that are made by staff. They want to point fingers. They want to throw names out. I'm just going to try to be as calm as I can here. You know, Ms. Young's name's been bounced around. Mr. Grimes' name's been bounced around. But, you know, county administrator takes full responsibility. So they want to get upset, they can email me directly. And trust me, they have. I've seen the emails. I've received them. You know, some of them not very kind, you know. So, but, you know, we're going to always step up, and we're always going to do the right thing. You know, and I said this, I believe, Mr. Chairman, the other day. You know, we're not in the business that's going to make everybody happy. But what we are in the business of is doing the right thing. We don't manage out of fear, and we don't manage out of intimidation. And for those folks that want to be upset, I have a phone number, I have an email address, and I have an office. You are welcome to come see me, email me, call me, and I'll have that conversation. But if you want to blame my staff, that is not going to happen. They did exactly what they should have done, and they did exactly what I asked them to do. I take responsibility. And if anyone here has on my commission is upset with that, you can come see me as well. But we have to make tough decisions. Sometimes we have to make those decisions on the fly, you know, and we will. But we did everything we could. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that the majority of those puppies and those dogs that were adopted out on Friday had been in a shelter for a long time. If rescues want to step up, come see us. There's no reason for an animal to be in that shelter 297 days if you want to step up and help. You know, it's not about when we need puppies rescued. It's about when we have everybody, every animal from cats to dogs in that rescue sitting there for 297 days. Step up. We did our job. Do yours. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments.
Thank you. I understand the passion, and I really do. And it's, Julianne, Ms. Young, your presentation today, it did make me tear up. I don't want to see animals being mistreated. I do think it's a personal responsibility. I don't think it's government's responsibility, but sometimes we're thrown into that situation, and we do the best we can when we're there. Okay. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Pickens.
Thank you, Chairman Harvey. I'll start with the adoption event. I do think the staff put together something in a short period of time that was the best that they felt that we could do. I do think with this event, this won't be the last one we have. That a little more communication may be necessary. I've had a few people come see me to complain, want to be put on the agenda. I said that was up to the chairman or a commissioner. I actually said the chairman. So, Mr. Harvey, if I spoke out of turn, I apologize on
You're fine.
On TV. But I suggested to them that they talk to staff and hear staff out. And they probably would have gotten a lot of this information that was presented from staff today a week or so ago. I do think that there is a proper pattern or what would you call it, to move something forward is to go to the Animal Control Advisory Committee. That's what it's for, is to make recommendations to us. if there's something that we need to change or to look at. So that was, I would suggest, is that's where it needs to start, and I think Commissioner Adamsack mentioned that. So with that said, I want to commend staff. Administrator Suggs, the buck does stop with you, okay? But the staff worked diligently. They worked together. There were a lot of volunteers. Bless the people that came in to help this thing to be a success. The Sheriff's Department is always there for us. So that's all I've got to say on that. On a lighter note, the 42nd Annual Catfish Festival, sponsored by the Crescent City Rotary Club, is coming back April 6th after a 4-year absence. It is a little different. It's a format of just Saturday from 10 to 5 with swamp cabbage, gator tail, quail, frog legs, catfish dinners, and strawberry shortcake. Entertainment, kids activity, parade, arts and crafts, and a car show. The parade is earlier this year. It's at 11 o'clock, so if any county employees or county staff want to join me in the parade, or some of the county commissioners, get with me, because you would need to be in the lineup by 10:30. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pickens. Commissioner Adamsack.
Yeah, so about a year ago, when we had an incident with animal services, it really wasn't animal services, but with an animal in the county, you know, I put myself out there as a commissioner. I had a meeting in Interlochen and Palatka that I held personally separate from the commission, and I had 2 people attend the one in Interlochen, and it was the same 2 people that call me with the same exact thing, and they didn't want to solve anything. They just wanted to tell me the same thing they've told me 250 times about their neighbor. And I had one person come to the Palatka one, and, you know, usually, you know, with the uproar that was happening with that event, I was expecting to have hundreds of people potentially. But what I'd like to say is this is, I would like to ask if we can have an animal services, if the committee, the animal services group, is willing to do an evening meeting one time, because the next one is until April, and I think it would be good, while this is fresh in people's mind, to do one before May in April. And I don't know if you would want me to, but I'd be willing to facilitate helping with that, to have that conversation with the public, with all the input people that have from services and citizens, and if that committee's willing to do that. So if the board is willing, I'm willing to take that on and do that in the month of April, if we can make it happen. So I guess I would need a wave of support like we've done for other commissioners on ideas, if you're willing to do that. And the goal of that would be to have a concise list of things that they would request or ideas they have to come back to our board, if they can come up with that. And obviously that's going to be somewhat of a complaint session as well, but we need to get through the complaints. So we probably just have to sit and listen, and then we have to get some answers from that. So there's always ways we can improve.
I don't have any problem with you meeting with anybody.
I don't understand the ask you.
Are you asking for that group to come together? And
The advisory board to hold a meeting that's at a time that's convenient for everyone, and I would attend to run that part of the meeting to
I
help
understand,
with
but
it.
what is the goal? Is the goal to come up with a strategic plan for the county going forward with, if we were in another hoarding case like that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that would be the goal,
You're
is
saying
to
a
see if we
strategic
could
plan.
have something more formulated, and so that we have a reaction plan.
Well, wouldn't you think the Animal Services Committee would need to be involved in that too?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That is the meeting of the Animal Services Committee. There
He's-
just isn't one for 2 months.
So he's saying instead of the normal meeting, that they would move it to an
Right,
evening meeting.
and pull it in.
And pull it in, so a time certain, a date certain.
And I want to leave that up to the Animal Services Committee. If the chairman of the Animal Services Committee doesn't want to do that and wants to wait till May.
That's what I would like.
Yeah.
Get with the chairman and make,
Right.
yeah. I don't think we should override that.
Right. No, it absolutely would have to be that committee's decision to have it.
All right. Anything else you have?
No, I hopefully I'll make it to the Catfish Festival. And the fair is going on through Saturday.
That's right.
So the fair's been excellent. A lot of people. Yesterday was a little bit slower, but that always happens on the Monday. So see everyone at the fair.
Good. Mr. Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to mention the fair. I think tonight is the judging for the swine, for the hogs, and so if you haven't ever come out and watched the young men and young ladies show their pigs and do whatever, it's actually pretty neat. So I would recommend that everybody does that one time. Also, the accumulation of a lot of work for these young these youngsters or young adults, I guess you'd be the better term to use, would be the combination is Friday night at the sale where they try to sell their livestock and help out with their project. And, you know, I guess it's been beat to death today pretty hard, but I just want to say one more time that this commissioner appreciates what the staff did on short notice, work hard, make the best of a bad situation, and I don't care if it's animal services or any other department, we cannot do anything around here that we don't offend somebody. I've noticed that in all the years. So I guess this time around we offended some of the rescues or whatever. I apologize for that, but still, we did the best we could, and I want to commend staff for that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Wilkinson.
Thank you. I was actually out of state whenever this event occurred, but I do recognize the hard work that all of our staff put in to do the best that they could do under the circumstances. And 200 plus dogs was certainly an overwhelming challenge for us. You know, I look back at this, and like any incident that happens, you all step back after something happens and you take a look and you say, you know, what did we do good at? What could we have done better? And I think that all of us as board members, and I don't believe I'm speaking out of turn, are thinking the same thing. We're all thinking, you know, while everything was good, what else could have been better? It's no different than when a hurricane comes, right? After a hurricane passes, the team gathers up and they say, okay, this is what we did. This is, you know, what can we do better next time? So that's always happens in any kind of incident, is that you reevaluate it afterwards. And some of the things that I've taken out of this event, first of all, was the teamwork, and we appreciate the partnerships we have with all the different rescues that came out. And like Commissioner Turner said, you're not going to make everybody happy. It's not going to happen. You know, you can only divide the dogs up so many ways. So yes, some rescues got turned away and didn't get an animal, but that doesn't mean that we didn't also already send out over 170 plus dogs to rescues. And then from what I understand from your presentation this morning, a large portion of the dogs that were adopted on that Friday, came from our animal control services shelter that had been in animal services for a long time. So that's a positive, right? That's a good thing that happened in this community. But what it also did was that it brought me to thinking about the spay and neuter program. And when I ran for office, I remember standing up and saying, you know, I don't believe in government paying for a spay and neuter program because I'm a responsible dog owner. I believe everybody else should be too. But then this case came up, and I started thinking a little bit differently. And I thought, you know, what if this woman had had some resources? What if she would have been able to get these? You know, what happened was it just sort of one dog, you know how it works, creates another dog, and it just, next thing you know, you got 200 dogs. So what I would like to do is have a discussion similar to what Commissioner Adamczak said about some kind of a strategic plan, and with an animal control advisory board, and you know what we can do better in the future. I don't think it's a criticizing of what has happened, but more of, you know, best practices, if you will, that we could do, that we could take forward. But pet overpopulation is a very real issue in Florida. As more people move to the state, they bring their pets with them, and that's a problem because we continue to have a burden on our community for all of the non-spayed and neutered dogs and cats that are roaming around. And, you know, I've done a lot of research to try to figure out what we can do. And one of the single most important things that we can do to save cats and dogs from suffering and death is, and overpopulation, is to spay and neuter them. So therefore, you know, I prepared a statement, but I really don't think it's necessary. I know that we are working with ARC to have a mobile spay and neuter van or truck or whatever, but that's a trailer, but that's going to be a few months out. I know that we've also already committed with a grant, hoping to get a grant from the state for a spay and neuter program. But in the meantime, we have a gap. And so what I'm thinking, and what I would like to make a motion on, is that we approve a one-time $15,000 allowance for a countywide spay and neuter program to fill the gap until we receive those, the grants from the state. And I think that that would help. We can go ahead and get some animals spayed and neutered in our community, and it's just a one-time thing. So that's what I'm making that motion.
I'll second it for conversation.
Okay?
First thing I want to ask is the attorney, if we did this, and I think this should go through the Animal Services Committee, just to be clear. If we did this meeting with the Animal Services Committee, we both, because it's a publicly noticed meeting, we both could attend and speak. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, you would notice it as though it's a commission meeting as well, just because you have two commissioners.
But they're normally noticed, I believe, aren't they, the Animal Services Advisory? Yeah, so they're already noticed, so.
Yeah, they are.
If we create a new one, so you and I could both go to a meeting, and whether it's the May one or whenever that committee wants to meet and speak, so. I'm for the idea, and I'm not for government paying for spay and neuter, so I'll back that off a little bit. I do like the idea of, as a stopgap, potentially doing it, so I'm open to that discussion. You don't have my vote for that today, I'll say that out loud. But after we meet with Animal Services and see where that conversation goes, I think it should be two conversations, one about spade and neutering and one about if we ever had a horror event. I had my light lit before you said that, and then what I wanted to say is, you know, in my whole time in this county, there's never been a hoarder event like this. So you also don't want to over-plan for something that happens once in an eon. So there's you can have a great plan, but you also don't want to build some crazy thing that it's not a hurricane. It is different. But so I just want to put that out there too, that I don't want to make it so it's some insane process that we have that doesn't allow agility on the part of staff and the part of rescues if in fact another situation like this happens. So I just want to be clear on that. But today I'm not ready to vote yes on that, but I will say that we may need to do some sort of stopgap. My problem is I don't know that our community is willing to bring their pets in to get spayed and neuter. I mean, because I talk to people all the time that think it's wrong in some way. It's I don't understand it, but there's people in our community that think it's wrong to spay or neuter their animals. Like I know some people who think that their dream is that their dog is going to have a husband or wife type thing and have puppies that carry on that dog. I mean, they don't know when they're going to do it, but that's why they don't spay or neuter their dog. And that I don't understand it, but they do have the right to have that opinion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I understand. I still have the floor.
You do.
I'm just trying to figure a way that we need to address the overpopulation that we have. I mean, as long as we continue to not have a program, and I do know that there's nonprofits that have some programs available, but usually they go through those funds really quick. And we're in this cycle that we go pick up 50 dogs off of the street, we put them in the kennel, we get them out to rescues, and there's 150 more out on the street. And so that's where my thought process was going. Thank you.
Ms. Wilkinson, would you allow Mr. Turner to
Yes.
make a comment? Mr. Turner?
Would she allow me? This is discussion
It's
on
fine.
a motion on
It
the
is,
floor.
it is.
She doesn't have to allow me to do anything. You do, sir.
Right, go right ahead.
Okay. I'm not going to be able to support this. I think that we gave $25,000 to Miss Oakwood to try to get her trailer moving forward and help that out and whatever. And Mr. Adamsack is completely correct. There are certain people in this county that don't want their dogs spayed or neutered because they have a breeding program. I know people that have 10 generations of hound dogs and 10 generations of hunting dogs. So if it was up to certain members of the community, they should spay everything and just do the best they can. They can't raise their dogs for sport or hunting or whatever. So I'm not saying that I'm against spay and neuter if the situation is correct and somebody actually wants their stuff spayed and neutered, but they can't afford it. But I'll never vote for that the county requires anybody to spay and neuter their pet if they don't want to spay and neuter their pet. I know it takes responsibility from that, but you know, you take this lady that happened next week, and I don't think we should do a knee-jerk reaction to what happened. I think we should try to, like Commissioner Wilkinson said earlier, we need to take that event and critique it and try to find out if it happens again, how to make it better. But standing around and trying to be critical of what happened in that event is not good for anybody or any situation. I think we should use it as a learning experience to try and make things better in the future. And I do agree with that part of your comments, Commissioner. But I'm not going to be able to just knee-jerk throw $15,000 with no plan or how it's going to be implemented or anything else. Just throw $15,000 out there with, like I said, no plan or what we're going to do with it or anything else. When Miss Oakwood came in here and asked for us to support her spay and neuter trailer, and we did, for the tune of, I think it was 25.
25.
And so when we did that, she had a plan, and she had a way that it would help the citizens, and she had a plan. We didn't just throw $25,000 at the wall and hope it stuck. So I'm not going to be able to support this today, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't support something in the future, but it needs to go through the proper channels. It needs to go through Animal Services, and it needs to come back under new business and be vetted, just like we did earlier. It just doesn't need to be a knee-jerk reaction to an event that happened last week. So I'm not going to be able to support this today, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Wilkinson?
So just to be clear, I wasn't advocating for any kind of requirement or law or ordinance that would say that somebody has to have an animal spayed or neutered. What I was advocating for was a volunteering where somebody could come in, and if they couldn't afford or didn't have the means, that they could get their animal spayed or neutered. To say, and I'm sorry I wasn't clear on that, there is a plan, and it's the same plan that we would be using for when we get our grant money, in hopes that we get the grant money. And so the plan that I had already spoken with some people from our animal control, Mr. Helms, and he had already put into place in the grant the process, if you will, for a spade and neuter program if the county were to take one on. But I'm fine. Sometimes in this job we tend to plant seeds, and I'm planting the seed, and maybe we can bring it back at a later time for an agenda item or under new business.
Are you withdrawing your motion?
Yes, I'll withdraw the motion for now, but I do appreciate the discussion. And the other thing that I want to say is it's not okay for people to attack our staff. It's not okay. I understand people are passionate. We all have something that we're passionate about. But unfortunately, some of the things that have happened is that we've had our staff members, administrators, and directors yelled at, screamed at, cursed at, and that's never okay. Civility should always be number one when you're having a discussion, and if you can't do that, then you're not representing your agency as well as you should. And so I would just like to say, if whatever happens in the future, remember everybody is a human being, and talk to them like they are and how you want to be treated. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Let me remind everybody we are under Commissioner comments. So, Mr. Adams, did you have a new comment you needed to make?
No, not with her withdrawing the motion.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Young, you have a comment that you wanted to make, or Mr. Grimes?
Yes, sir. I just think one thing's worth noting in front of the public is we went on a state call. That is absolutely a correct statement. That was accusatory of staff earlier. And the word that kept getting dropped in there is we had to exhaust all local resources before anybody would step up to the game and do anything for Putnam County. And that was what was mentioned several times in that call. You got to exhaust all of your local resources. All these rescues can stand up here and say we said we would take them. The numbers exceeded what on that call everybody in that crowd today said that they would take. So then we had to put a plan together locally to take care of the need. We were still going to have 60, 70 dogs moving into that next day. Nate's Honor stepped up that night and took 51. Nobody during that call, when we had to formulate a plan, stepped up and says, we'll take them all. Not one single soul. So we have to make a staff ability to make a plan to move Putnam County forward. And that's what we did. Nobody in that call stood up at the EOC that day. The statement that was made that our emergency management director had no idea, that is totally untruthful. He did know. We took the first set of dogs from the EOC, because we closed our animal control facility. It is not large enough to handle it. And upon the recommendation from a University of Florida doctor that was on the call, said do not allow additional rescues to go inside of your animal control facility because of the potential to spread disease. And that's what we did. We moved them outside of our animal control. We closed it down. After we did that, we still had rescues bombard the gate out at animal control and took it upon themselves to step inside that facility after they were told it was closed. So I just want to bring that out to the public, that those were events that took place. Nobody stepped up. They told us we had to exhaust all local resources. Our surrounding counties stepped up to the plate, every single one of them around us, and gave us resources and all that. We didn't exhaust all local resources. It was a requirement to get all of the state help. So I just want to make it known that we did our best to exhaust all local resources, and part of the local resource was to help that adoption event. And if we messed up, we'll take it. But I think our staff did a marvelous job in that event. Thank you, sir.
I agree. You didn't mess up at all. Now, my comments.
I just want
Go right
to say,
ahead.
I agree 100% with what he just said, 100%. You can't make everybody happy, and some people get passionate, especially when it comes to animals. They get passionate.
They do.
What I get passionate about is when those passionate people come in here and show their ass at our staff. That's what I get passionate about. And so that's what I got passionate about earlier today. It was unfounded. The stuff that's gone on social media has been unfounded. I mean, I'm just telling you, they did a heck of a job. They really did. And I agree, Commissioner Wilkinson. I think that we should use it for a learning experience to help plan, just like we would a hurricane, to plan for an additional one that if it ever happens in the future. I'm on board with that. But we don't need to do things without going through the channels that we have set up, which is animal services and staff involved and Brian involved as head of animal services and what have you, and come up with a plan and bring it to the board. If it's better, I'm on board. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Pickens, you have a closing comment?
Yeah, and I agree with Commissioner Turner. I agree with all the comments up here today, and our staff did do a great job. Administrator Suggs, but you know the buck stops with you, and you stood up for that today, and you stood up for your staff. The only thing I regret is that comment that Deputy Administrator Grimes just made wasn't during that presentation. It should have been right after that. People just have to know. They have to understand when Facebook becomes fact book, there's a problem. That's one reason I don't do it, okay? So anyway, I appreciate what staff did, animal control employees, the sheriff's department, the volunteers, the vets, everybody, what they did. We can learn from this, there's no question, because we have the staff that's open-minded enough and intelligent enough and outgoing enough to make the adjustments that we need for little old Putnam County, okay? The best county, I mean, it's the only county I've ever lived in, okay? We're not just a bunch of hicks out here in the damn woods, you know? It's the best staff. I've been here almost 8 years. It's the best staff that I have worked with. The commission has always been good to work with, and I think this is probably the best commission I've worked with, okay? So that's all I've got to say. I just wish that was part of the presentation. I think, Mary, this clarification needed to be stated. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pickens. So I love the fact that Facebook is not fact book, and we're not just a bunch of hicks that live out in the woods. So I appreciate that. My comments are very simple. The other day I got word of a land clearing operation of a gentleman that now owns George's Lake Boat Ramp. I have turned that information over. I spoke to the gentleman, and as the commission stated, to assign Rich and our administrator to look at a long-term lease or possible purchase, and that information has been turned over to Rich and Mr. Suggs for your understanding. Also, on the animal services, I did take an exception to one thing that we don't do a whole lot of. Our staff doesn't do a whole lot of adoptions. Commissioner Wilkinson, you have taken upon yourself to do many adoptions with our staff at the last moment on some of these events, and I appreciate that. And we have seen results, and staff has, in my opinion, bent over backwards to make that work. So I agree with Commissioner Turner. You know, if you govern by Facebook or polls, and I advise this to all my county commission people that I mentor throughout the state, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because you see 30 people who might respond, and 10 people who might live in the county, and 3 of them that vote. Don't kid yourself. They don't vote. And for people to walk into a room and you go, well, their room's full of people, they must have a passion about it, but there's 73,000 people that did not attend today. So don't govern by Facebook or what Commissioner Pickens referred to as they want it to be fact book. It's not. It's their opinion, and everybody has an opinion. So if there's nothing good for the order, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.